Hey gang, and happy birthday year to Harry. I just attempted to film this and had a gigantic sneezing attack, which is really unfortunate this time of year because we have this whatever the fuck it's called going around, and also hay fever and people mowing their grass, and that's what happens. You go to Walmart and do that, and people scatter, and then you can buy whatever the fuck you want to buy. So it's kind of a blessing. Anyway, 1966. This is Harry's birth year. There is a lot of good things happening in 66, so let's talk about them. First off, the only one that really stands out is number one, and everybody's in this group's going to know what number one is, so whatever. So start at the beginning or at the end or whatever, and talk about How the Grinch Stole Christmas, voiced by none other than Boris Karloff, and animated by my probably top. I mean, as far as cartoon animation goes, I don't think it gets any better than this. And this is from a decade when Saturday morning cartoons were a thing, and it's Chuck Jones, and he is his. I mean, it's iconic. You can pick him out from Looney Tunes. You know exactly, like when you see these characters, there's no doubt in my mind that's Chuck Jones. Even if I didn't know it, I would be like, oh man, I bet that's Chuck Jones, and I have to look it up or something. But yeah, just so good. Next goes to Mr. Chicken, hands down. Don Knotts' funniest movie. I mean, there's a couple, Shaky Skin in the West and Mr. Limpet. Those are really good movies. But Ghost of Mr. Chicken is fucking hysterical. It is just it's one of I don't know. Just watch it. Other than his character Barney on Andy Griffith, it doesn't get much better than this. Munsters Go Home, huge Munsters fan. There's always the rival between Munsters and Addams Family, which I love both. But the Munsters they took control of that for me. The show was so well done. The movie itself is not the best part of the Munsters. I think there was another one, and then they did some more later on with different people that just it was awful. But it just didn't have the same feel without Fred Gwynn and them. It just didn't have it. But this is really spectacular. Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. Don't need to talk about that much. It's been beat to death. It's going to be on everybody's list. It is it's fucking Eastwood. Batman, the 1966 movie. It's referred to a lot as Batman 66, and it's a fun ride. It's everything cheese in Batman the TV show, which I love the TV show. Um, Unfortunately, the TV show was one of the reasons that the Munsters got canceled, because who the fuck wants to watch a black and white monster show when you got Batman acting all crazy and kapow and bang and all this shit. I would rather keep the Munsters going, even though I love Batman. But there you go. I have the box set of the TV show, and they did a really good job restoring it and doing it justice. But they've also done, I think, 3 standalone movies they're animated, but they're based on the TV show. So they still have. I think they were all done. They almost all had to be done before Adam West died. I could be wrong, but I think they are, and they fit in very well, even though they're animated. Next, Christopher Lee, Dracula, Prince of Darkness. I can't find any fault in any of his portrayals of Dracula, even though some of them are the movies themselves aren't as good as others. Um, this one's still, good. His portrayal, still good. Peter Cushing and any of his are good. I mean, sometimes it's just the story. Maybe it was putting out too many. I think he did it. It's like 17 times maybe he was Dracula. Maybe more than that. This is definitely not the strongest of them, but it is really fucking good. Godzilla versus the Sea Monster. Also, Ebra Horror of the Deep. I think it's Ebra Horror of the Deep, and I hope I'm saying the monster's name right, but whatever. It's Godzilla versus the Sea Monster, which is fantastic. It's not it doesn't stand out to like people that just like the common watching Godzilla films if they're on. Or like, hey, we're gonna watch a giant monster movie. People that love Godzilla, it's still not one that stands out. It's not Mothra. It's not Mechagodzilla. It's not Rodan. It's not my favorite fight, King Kong. But it is worth watching. It's during your birth year. So next, Alfred Hitchcock, Torn Curtain. By no means Hitchcock's best film, not even close. But it is worth mentioning. It is a decent film, and amongst the list that I looked up of 1966 movies, there's not one that I could really throw in there that I personally enjoyed more. Like there was, I don't even know if I still have I almost put Fortune Cookie on there in its place, but I can't remember it as much. So I'm like, I better go with this. I think I would rewatch this, even though Matthau and them are, amazing. Next, Cul-de-sac. I've talked about this before. I don't know if I did a Criterion Corner on it, which I really promise I'm going to get back in these. It's just, I'll talk about that later, but it's a Roman Polanski film starring Donald Pleasence. It's two gang members get shot up, and they go find this, basically a castle on a beach, and I'll leave it at that. It's Polanski. I'm a huge fan. A lot of his stuff, his early stuff, is really good, and definitely a watch, especially if you're a Criterion fan and you're looking for something to buy on the sale coming up in July. This is definitely worth it. So there you go. And number one, no doubt in anybody's mind, the ultimate Mike movie. Seconds. I talk way too much about this fucking movie, but it is that good. It is a fantastic movie. Everything about, even though, like where Ian says, there's not a lot going on in this part, and when they get out to the to Beverly Hills, and there's not a lot going on and all that stuff. To me, I've beat this to death, and I even hate to keep bringing it up, but it is, just in case you've never watched one of my videos where I talk about it, or you're brand new or whatever, it is a giant Twilight Zone episode with, an amazing story. I really love what goes on throughout this, and the ending is, how you get Twilight Zone. Everything sounds fucking awesome, and then all of a sudden it's shit. Everything goes to shit, and that's what makes the Twilight Zone so great. And it really, really stands out on this. So if you haven't seen it, just fucking watch it already. So until next week, when it's somebody else's birthday that I can't remember who's next, enjoy. Later, and happy birth year, Harry.